Fallout New Vegas is one of my favorite games of all time, and I have once again completed another long playthrough of this classic game. Does it hold up 10 years later in 2020? Let's find out. As we always do, we'll start with the visuals, and if I'm being honest, this game doesn't hold up all that well. There are certainly mods that will improve the overall look of Fallout New Vegas, but I think the days of trying to make it look modern, a game of today, ended about 3 or 4 years ago. I didn't want to change too much for this playthrough, change anything in a really big way, but having something like Nevada Skies certainly changes the way the game looks at different times of the day compared to the vanilla skies and the vanilla lighting in the game. No EMB is going to make this game look modern at this point, not in my opinion. Better? Yes. Modern? No. Again, not in my opinion. Character models look terrible. They've never really been all that high quality on this engine for my liking anyway. Environments and textures within those environments all look like some of the most dated you can find compared to modern games. The only way to play New Vegas at this point is on PC with mods, and I'd recommend keeping it as simple as possible. If this is just your first or second playthrough, you're looking at Nevada Skies, maybe a few texture packs, and one of the character overhauls, and at that point I think you can call it good. That's if you're looking to run just a few mods while still keeping 90-95% of the game intact and feeling as vanilla as possible. Huge shout out to Dark Populous on YouTube. His tutorials helped me mod the game and make minimalistic changes that didn't really affect the overall story or how the game plays in any real big, again, significant way. New Vegas just doesn't look that great anymore. Fallout 4 and Skyrim, I think, still look somewhat decent, but they're running on a much improved version of this garbage engine. Visually, this game just hasn't aged well, in my opinion.
Whoa! I've got you now.
Of course. I'd never let you fight my kidnappers with my help. Without it.
Please assume the position.
Gameplay in New Vegas is the chicken parm of 3D Fallout games. It is the strawberry milk, Nesquik preferably. It is the most amazing of the 3D Fallout games for a lot of different reasons, but I think in some ways you could argue the shooting mechanics in New Vegas are inferior to shooting in Fallout 4, and I would agree with that to an extent, but New Vegas has many things Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 don't. The biggest thing, I think, the reason myself and so many other gamers prefer New Vegas is choice and consequence. Many decisions that you make while playing in dialogue, because make no mistake, dialogue plays a huge role in the gameplay when it comes to New Vegas. Choices matter. They simply matter. Almost everything that you do in this game matters. If you want to shoot up a town full of innocents and a few NCR soldiers, cool, but there are going to be consequences. Maybe you decide to help this NPC versus a different NPC on the other side of the map. That's great, but there's going to be consequences. One of those consequences may be you have eliminated your chances at 2 or 3 other quests with that said NPC, or ending quests will be different based on the decisions that you've made. Even at the beginning of the game, your choices matter. The very beginning of the game, the dialogue options at Doc Mitchell's house and the Vigor Tester determine how you will play the rest of New Vegas. Some can be slightly changed and upgraded along the way, and if you have all the DLC, you'll eventually be able to come close to maxing out every skill. That's on top of the many perks you'll choose from when you level up. Do you want to be a bumbling, fumbling idiot, but you're great with explosives and medicine? You can do that. You want to be great with guns and repair, but have little to no luck? You can do that. But decisions like these can affect things like shooting as well as your critical hit chance throughout your playthrough. A side note tip, just a pro tip for Fallout New Vegas, luck is very OP in this game. It just is. A lot of these perks and skills can be difficult to choose from because there are so many good ones, so many helpful perks that change the way the game is played and how you approach different situations in battle and dialogue. The first time playing New Vegas, I feel, should be special. take your time, see all that's possible in this amazing world, or come close to it. Play 75% of the game at the very least. It's not that great from an attention to detail standpoint, and you guys know how much I love things like that. If you want to play it like Call of Duty and play stupid in the story, you can do that. There's an option for that. You may not get the ending you were hoping for, but it's possible to play just about any play style, any way that you can think of. If you so choose, you could choose something like lockpicking in science, hacking and lockpicking your way in and out of all kinds of situations, doors and terminals. You could put everything into melee and speech and become the best smooth talker in the Mojave that's ready to axe any ghoul or Legion scum in the face. With so many different gameplay styles, crazy good DLC, possible ways of choosing your ending, New Vegas stands head and shoulders above the other 3D Fallout games.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
The story in New Vegas, you play as a courier working for the Mojave Express. You've been tied up, played for a fool, and are then told the game has been rigged from the start. You're shot in the head, and soon after you wake up and can become who and whatever you want in this wasteland. New Vegas has a lot of moving parts and side stories. I also feel it has the best story out of the 3D Fallout games. I mean, there's a lot of bias there. I've put a crazy amount of time into New Vegas, but it's not just the main story or the story itself. It's less about that and more about a lot of the humor and at times the very believable characters Obsidian has created here. And whether it be because of the terrible engine that's in use, budget, a thing of time, character faces don't really display emotion very well in this game. So I wouldn't say it's immersive from an atmosphere or story standpoint. It's just believable. The other games don't have characters like Cass and Veronica, and those are just two characters, two of my favorite characters, but there's so much more to this game. It's short-lived, but Deputy Beagle is also a treat for those with a sense of humor. And as I mentioned, characters like Cass and Veronica alone have so much story to tell, and their side quests that are both honestly, for me, better than trying to enjoy the main story. At this point, Cass is afraid to sell things of sentimental value. Veronica doesn't want you to know that she's Brotherhood of Steel because she's afraid of how people may treat her outside of her own home. There are tons of interesting little things that happen within this world as well. There's a ghoul on the streets of Freeside I think most people will end up passing up or just ignoring because they feel like this is an NPC that's not going to offer much or offer nothing at all. But he'll tell you little short stories that may be helpful to specific quest lines. People miss things like that. I think it's important to, on a first or second playthrough, talk to the majority of NPCs. If you see one, talk to them, you're probably going to get something helpful out of that particular NPC. The king and his kings think that they're Elvis, but have their own interesting stories and side quests. I highly recommend doing these. When you finally make your way to the Strip, a whole new window of possibility, an opportunity opens up. You can have a very long chat with Mr. House, and he'll tell you exactly what the business is.
The business is this. One of my employees has stolen an item of extraordinary value from me, and I want it recovered. Simple enough.
And finally, when you're done with Mr. House and he tells you everything that he needs to tell you at that moment in the game, you can choose to go and do a really awesome side quest, or you can see what other amazing things the Strip has to offer, or you can go and settle up differences with Benny. Maybe you keep him alive, or maybe you do away with him and then see what Yes Man has to offer. So many different ways, so many different possibilities to go about completing a lot of these quests. That's what I love about New Vegas. There are 4 major factions that matter most in the game, most which affect the main storyline in some way depending on your decisions. You have the NCR that I normally side with, even if I don't agree with how they've handled certain situations over the years or even in current time. Mr. House, he is another option for you. I think he is certainly one of the more interesting characters in the entire game. Make no mistake about that. There is a lot to talk about with Mr. House, but unfortunately, he's not being entirely honest with you about his motivations, and you'll find out more about that as you play along and in some of the game's DLC. Caesar's Legion, Absolute Legion scum, as I've always referred to them, they have done such awful things that I've never really been able to side with them entirely. I may do them a favor here and there, but I just can't get behind them with everything that I have. You also find out just how awful they really are in the Honest Hearts DLC that contains one of the best characters in all of Fallout. You have to play it. Honest Hearts DLC, make sure that's one that you go to after you finish up with the main game. And finally, we have Yes Man. He is going to be, I think, for most people, one of the last faction options that you come across. He's a Securitron that was programmed to always say yes, even when there were times where he definitely should have said no. Hence the name. Some people are going to feel like he offers the best approach to the ending because he's offering what is more or less an independent New Vegas. But another huge shout out for me, I would encourage you to go and watch Oxhorn's videos and give him a subscription if you love Fallout games, because I believe he makes some of the best Fallout videos on YouTube. One video in particular on why choosing Yes Man is bad for the overall outcome really changed my mind on this robotic loser. With so much greed, betrayal, hope, and lost loved ones, New Vegas can at times truly make you feel and care about the well-being of the people in the Mojave. You can, in some ways, juggle all the factions and to some extent have them all favor you at once, but it's when you start making those very impactful decisions where Quest will fail and other factions will begin to turn against you. For this playthrough, I chose Mr. House. It's just been a long time, and more than 70% of the time, I've sided with the NCR. I think I just really like their outfits, the NCR Ranger armor in particular. It's just too awesome to pass up. Obtaining it, however, is a different matter altogether. One of the major oversights in this game for me, and maybe it's not entirely an oversight, it is just my opinion, but with someone with close to 1,000 hours or more in this game, you would think I would have at least somewhat of an idea about what was happening here, and I may have missed something. I admit I may have missed something. Some things may have already been in place, some things may have already been in motion to cause this to happen. Maybe it's just a missed opportunity in writing for Obsidian, I'm not sure, but one of the things is even if you kill Caesar and some of his left and right hand men, the Legion still show up at the end of the game. And then there's another thing where if the Legion really hates you and you're out in the wasteland just kind of exploring and doing different things, they still track you at random throughout and tell you that Caesar has marked you for death. For me, that's just, slightly poor writing and an oversight on Obsidian's part. Those are what we would call minor complaints. A minor complaint to a massive game with tons of moving parts and what seems like endless choices on your first 2 or 3 playthroughs, and an ending that I feel, if you end up loving this game, will leave you wanting a lot more. And the DLC is going to provide that somewhat, but even after 30 to 50 hours, I feel like if you love this game, you're going to want a lot more. I know I do. I still want more from this game. I definitely want some updated visuals. A remaster would be cool, but those are indeed minor complaints. It would be incredibly embarrassing for someone like me that has put a ridiculous amount of time into this game if I didn't briefly touch on the sound for New Vegas. There are all kinds of little things like the reloading sounds and different weapons, the fact that the majority of the guns have their own unique look and sound, but the soundtrack in this game is one of my favorite in any game ever. Not only do I feel like it's the best in the Fallout games, but it's easily top tier in all of Western games and RPGs. I think every song is a hit, very enjoyable. I know I'm not alone in this. It all just fits so well within this world they've crafted, all the environments, the wasteland. You can go and watch the making of Fallout New Vegas right here on YouTube, and they went through some very rewarding trouble to have Wayne Newton come along for the ride. It's not quite Three Dog levels of awesome and entertaining, but it's still very entertaining. As far as other negatives, little minor complaints that I have, there's not many. I do feel like this game is very much a masterpiece for me in so many ways. I already talked about the dated visuals and how even with mods, they don't really hold up that well. One other thing that comes to my mind is the karma system. I never understood this and why it carried over. This is the wasteland. It's kill or be killed out here. It's not flipping rainbows and cupcakes, okay? Why make the game make me feel like I'm doing something wrong for stealing food to eat or caps I may need to buy something else to survive, especially if I'm stealing from characters and factions that you've written as pretty awful people, pretty terrible factions and NPCs. Some of these people, it's left up to interpretation whether or not they're good or bad people, and even some of their quest lines and such, but you have to, what is that? The karma system makes no sense. Please never bring this back. It's completely wasted. It makes no sense in this game. If you're going to do it, it needs to be completely reworked. Don't bring back the karma system. That's all I got to say. I didn't even mention all of the ammo types that have their own effects. The many, and I mean many, awesome locations scattered throughout the wasteland. It's pretty incredible. You know, once you get to your 5th or 6th playthrough, it doesn't seem as overwhelming or as awesome for that matter, but there's still a lot to do in this game. And then coupled with the DLC, I mean, you're just never really going to run out of things to do and different ways to play. I wish there were more. I do. I wish there were a lot more. There are some missed opportunities, but the companions that are in the game work, and they work well. I just wish there were more. I mean, they all have their own interesting stories and their own quest lines and such, but I just wish there had been more. I just wish that the game had offered more, time, resources, money, whatever it is. I think that one of the most incredible things about this game is that it was made in just under 2 years, and that left a lot to be desired in the way of polish. But the fact that it was made in just under 2 years is pretty awesome stuff. But missed opportunities for companions like Ghost and the Mojave Outpost seemed like a done deal. It just kind of made sense to me. Or, Sunny Smiles and Good Spring. She's one of the first people that you come across in the game. Just some missed opportunities there for companions. And of course, the many, many different enemy types in the game. I mean, it's Fallout. I mean, you know what you're getting. Tons of enemy types. Some of them awesome. Some of them not so awesome. And Cazadors, super annoying. There's a legendary Cazador, a legendary Deathclaw in this game. I don't know if you're about that life, but I'm usually not about that life. In conclusion, Fallout New Vegas continues to be one of my favorite games of all time. It's easily top 20, and if I really thought about it, it probably just slips into my top 10. Just for the crazy amount of time that I've put into this alone, how can I at least not consider putting it in my top 10? If you like RPGs that make a lot of your choices matter and have some consequences, New Vegas is exactly the kind of game you're looking for, and it shouldn't be missed. I think many probably consider this Obsidian's best work, and rightfully so, but as a fan of this developer, I hope that their best is yet to come. Fallout New Vegas sits high on the mountain as one of the greatest pieces of entertainment I've ever had the joy of experiencing, and you should definitely play this game. If you like RPGs at all, games with choice and consequence at all, play this game. I think you'll really like it, and if I'm wrong, well, I'm wrong. Thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. All the continued support. Like my review, share my review. I have other reviews on the channel. There will be more reviews to come. Many more in 2020 is the goal. You guys take care. Have a good one. Peace.